like you said, the talent pool is so big. We got to find a way to then sort of sift them out and come out to our best team. So that happens through the first round, and then generally the boys will go through a festival either wherever they're going. Some schools go to Michaelmas, some schools go to Potch, some wherever they go. Guys will do that, those sort of things, and then we get to the second round of trials, which becomes tough. It's not an easy process. There's selectors involved. There's a lot of kids who are expecting a lot of things to happen. A lot of parents with expectations, which is fair. And you're sort of coming down to crunch time, and it's never easy. It's a tough job. It's a tough week. It's tough. It's training. It's mentally, emotionally training for everyone. But you got to be clear. So a couple of things you'll take into account is number one, where are you playing? Where the national week's going to be played? So that makes a difference. Is it a Highveld week? Is it a coastal week? What's the balance of your team? What's the makeup of your team going to look like?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Stumped, a podcast designed to allow me to waste the time of people who have better things to do than sit around and chat cricket with me. And today, my victim is Ahmed Nawab, the Gauteng under-19s coach. Wabi, welcome and thank you for joining me.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure being here, and looking forward to the discussion.
Brilliant. The first thing I want to talk about is you as a coach. Because you've come very far. I know that there are some boys who are making it into the under 19 side whom you have coached at lower levels. When did this coaching journey start for you?
Yeah, so in fact, the cricket journey for me started at a very young age. Influenced by family members, grandparents, and my parents who were my grandpa and dad played the game, passionately and the game they enjoyed all the way through their lives. My late grandfather, he was very influential in getting me started in the game. So that's truly where my passion started for cricket. It was just fun. It was just always exciting to be out with a bat and ball, and instead of being in the house studying. So yeah, then that led me through playing cricket through school, through university, and then luckily managed to play a few first class games. And then the passion sort of just kept on burning from there. And once you get a taste of something that's sort of more high performance and challenges you and tests you, it's something that you feel you need all the time. It becomes addictive. And then that passion then translated into coaching and allowing the next generation of kids the opportunity as well to reach their dreams and goals. And I think one of my something that I really enjoyed growing up was playing with, coaching young kids, playing with them on the side of the field, and those sort of things, and then translated into something more formal, into doing some coaching badges and getting a bit more expertise in that field. And yeah, it just started with small little junior kids, and then slowly just moved through the ranks. Fortunate enough to be part of the Gauteng hub system from a coaching point of view, and there was great learning and education in that. And the real passion actually for coaching came through that, because you're dealing with a lot of kids who don't have a lot. They don't have access to a lot of information. They don't have access to a lot of people to help them and guide them. But they're so passionate about the game. They just love the game, and that's something that resonated with me. um, you know, and that's where the real hunger came for developing talent, for giving kids opportunities that they don't quite have it, and that's just obviously an important part of the role. But then you also have kids who do have access to all these things, and they also still need the help and guidance, and they have different challenges. So I think if you put the two together, it just kept the fire burning in me to give these kids all opportunities, and then I grew from there. I was luckily enough had the opportunity to coach, provincial teams at a younger age, from under 12s to under 13s, under 17s, and understand what they're all about, and be part of those sort of processes with those kids. And that just yeah, kept going on from there. And yeah, now I've fortunate enough to find myself as a Lions under 19 coach. Well, I think this is the fifth year now. So yeah, it's a great opportunity, and it's a privilege to be involved.
You mentioned that your parents and grandparents were involved with cricket. And I would assume that, naturally, as a byproduct of those, you grew up on the side of the pitch. You are watching them, they're playing, and you're trying to copy what they do. But then also, there's an aspect of them teaching you, them adopting that coaching role towards you because you show a passion for it. How much do you think that fed into you also, developing that drive from a young age because you're being taught by people who are close to you and you see them trying to elevate your game? Did that contribute in any way to you become to also when you figured out that you had a passion for coaching, does it also fit back into those early days?
Yeah, definitely. I grew up not having an official coach as such. It was mainly I was taught by them in the backyard of my house, on the side of the cricket field, in a small corridor passage in the backyard. I distinctly remember my grandfather would throw these underarm spinners, and then you'll be forced to try and weave and find your way to deal with him. And then just the chats around of how he encourages you to play the ball, and to find a way of dealing with whatever is chucking at you and those sort of things. I think those are memories that last a lifetime, and those are things that obviously encouraged me in my journey, and helped me. Like even today, I still distinctly remember those days. With my dad. My dad, I'm forever grateful for it. I think they never pushed me or chased their dreams through me. They just allowed me to play and develop and grow, and that's something that that's sort of advice that I can pass on to other people as well. It's not always easy, but sometimes that support structure is important, and it can't be overreaching or overbearing on a kid. It could allow them to figure their way around. But the most important thing that they taught me was just to have fun and just to enjoy what you do. And I think if we can all do that, I mean, it becomes easier for us to train harder. It becomes easier for us to challenge yourself to be better because you're doing something that you love every day. And that was the most important lesson that I think that I grew up with. Um, so yeah, it definitely did play a part in molding my sort of philosophy and my way of coaching. I think that was very important. But they always challenged me to be the best I can be, whether it be just playing for an A team or B team or C team, wherever it was. Just challenge yourself to be as best as you can be. I also grew up watching my dad play a lot of cricket, so I was a little kid on the side of the cricket field, troubling all the other uncles and wearing their pads and helmets and looking like an absolute fool there, but holding their big short handled bats. And in those days, those bats were heavy. Used to
Mhm.
carry around those bats and try and whack it around, whack the ball around, and have someone chuck at you and throw at you, and. But the cricket was hard. They played tough, hard cricket during those days. And growing up watching on the side of the field, listening to conversations and watching them fight for each other and fight for their team are also memories that you grow up with, and it builds your character in that way as well. So yeah, definitely it does make a difference.
And let's come to the hubs. I didn't know that you started at the hubs, but it's a very interesting thing for me because, as you mentioned, you get to see these kids who do not come from a lot. Some of them come from nothing. And there you are, you grew up around bats and pads and balls, all around you, and then you see these kids with a passion. Is there a moment that you can think of that really spoke to your soul, to your, when you see these kids with extreme passion, but without the resources, and it just spoke to you loudly in your soul?
Yeah, definitely. I think in the biggest learning came through working in hubs. So I started off at Central Hub. We're working with a lot of kids, sort of from the central region, including like Bosmont, Nuclear, all those sort of areas, because that's the area where I was living as well. So
Mhm.
definitely, I was luckily enough to grow up with access to equipment and those sort of things. So I knew what it was to sort of have that. Obviously, playing a bit of first class cricket, you get the privilege of being sponsored with some stuff, and traveling overseas to play in England, and you're getting new kit, and all the time coming back and you get another set, and so it was an absolute privilege, and something that I'm grateful for. Um, but then when you come down and you start the journey and you really look at all these kids and you're like, they've got so much of talent. I mean, they can bat, they can bowl, they've got good hand-eye coordination, they've got time on the ball, but they sharing a helmet and they're sharing pads and they don't have a nice bat and they don't have proper spikes to bowl with. And you're thinking, but like, how hampered are they actually? And you look at a lot more privileged kids and you say, like, are the playing fields really level? And the true transformation then comes into how much can we do for these kids to try and level that playing field, to give them that opportunity as well. It's not always easy because it's expensive, but I believe if we really want to make a difference, we can. And there's always people who are willing to help. There's always kids who are giving away kit. There's always kids who are buying new kit that they're going to give away the old stuff. And if you go out looking for those things, you're going to find it. And in that way, you can then give these guys opportunities, to in their lives and in their careers. So there's definitely times that, when you see these kids and sort of your heart just drops for them and you try and do as much as you can to help them. And I think that's our duty of care as coaches, especially in our country. We need to level the playing field, and that's equipment is an important way of doing it. And it just makes them feel like they have a sense of belonging. It makes them feel like they belong and they have an opportunity to be successful. I've seen it when I coach in lanes as well as a head coach of the major cricket club. I mean, even just resources among the kids. When you have an old cricket shirt or training Lions training top and you give it away to them and how they really love it. So and even at a high performance level, I was at Queens High School. I coached there for many years as well. And even there's kids there who need these type of things. And up to today, there's still kids that will cross my path that will need something. Luckily enough, at Lions, there's good human beings around us in the professional space who at the end of the season always just leave their stuff behind and say, listen, here's a bag of stuff. They'll trust us to give it away to the guys, and the guys end up with sort of top end equipment at the end of the day. That's obviously difficult to come by because obviously it's a special piece, but there's always pads or shoes or something lying around that we can just take on and give to someone. So to try and level the playing field, I think it's vitally important, and just to give those kids a sense of belonging, appreciation, and I think that's important. So I think it's a duty of care, and I'm probably not the only one who does it. There's a lot of other guys who are invested that work with these kids that also contribute as well.
Mm. Yes, and I really feel that and I appreciate it, when good people come together and they give a bit here, a bit there. It's not that they have so much, but
Mm.
it's just what they are able to just spare a little. Like, I cannot say the name because I don't have the clearance to say the name, but I remember when that Gauteng side that went to Zimbabwe. One parent whose son couldn't go because he had exams and stuff, he sponsored a boy from Queens to travel with that invitational side. For me, it's a big deal because you're giving a youngster exposure for their talent, something they could not have done on their own. And so I really appreciate that side of things. But Wabi, you are a young man. Why did you stop playing so early?
Yeah, I always told myself, I was the type of player, like I said, I grew up enjoying the game, so there was no pressure on me to perform and to play at the national level. Although that's my dream, and that's every young cricketer's dream, obviously, to play for the Proteas. And I just played to enjoy the game. I never missed a training session, whether it was school or university or further than that through strikers cricket, in a first class environment. Any day, come rain, sunshine, our Eid festival or whatever it was, I made sure I get to a training session. I even missed my sister's wedding, the day after a wedding, with even like a ceremony to play cricket. So the day the wonders, and I couldn't resist. And then sometimes you look back and say, is it worth it? But yeah, I guess at that moment in time it was. But I always say the day I stopped enjoying the game in a playing capacity, and I will stop playing. And I got to a point where I did invest a lot of time and effort and resources, and I had one really good season at the start of the year, and sort of in the first class season, and I maybe expected things then to happen a little bit quicker than they did. And then it sort of became a bit more tougher in terms of a mental point of view to just keep going. And you go 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 4 seasons, and like you're like, okay, where are we going with this? And then for my own personal cricket, then sort of yeah, it wasn't going as well as I liked. But I think more the passion of just playing and going out there and competing in a way just waved a little bit. So I think from then it sort of yeah, cricket then became. I finished studying, needed to start working, and then you sort of start to figure out where you're going to end up being in the next few years, and all those sort of thoughts come to your mind. And I went over to England and played a few seasons, and I enjoyed it. And then I got to a point where I said, listen, I'm done now. Unfortunately, I was young, but it just wasn't happening anymore, and that was sort of the end of it. It was tough because it took me like a few years to recover from it. You sort of out of the game. Playing competitively, you don't have that hunger, that burns inside. And sometimes, some time away, it might work in your favor. But all the lessons that I had in my life, and that's also just helped me in my journey to becoming a coach, is to say what I went through in my life, in my experience, although it was a short time, how can I use that to help the next generation, to help the next kid who goes through something similar, so he can stay in the game for longer. And the passion of cricket then still continued through that journey. And then now I love the game. I love where I am. I love the space that I'm in. And I just enjoy making the contributions, hopefully, that I can make. So yeah, I think we all have experience, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But it's how we use it and how we grow with it as human beings, and use it to help others.
Now let's talk about the Houghton side. This is one of my favorite subjects because a lot of the time people don't understand what goes into selection. Like they might see a player who does well here, who does well there, and think this boy should be in the under 19 side, but they don't understand that you guys look at a lot of things. It's not just how many hundreds do you have, but it's about whom do those hundreds come against.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of factors obviously that comes through when it comes to selection and player identification, and all those sort of things. And I think one of the important roles that we play in the environment is identifying the right sort of talent, and how we nurture them and how we grow them to reach their full potential. I think we've been fortunate enough in the last 5 years or so that I've been there. I think our record of turning around players into a professional environment has been quite good. We've been quite happy with. sort of the boys that that's come through our system. And sometimes it's not only boys that play in A team. Sometimes it's boys that play in our B teams who are still critically important for whatever reason. They probably can't make an A team. In our under 19 environment, for example, we might have a couple of years ago we had like 5 or 6 SC under 19 players. So if you're a player who's an opening batter and the guy we currently have is a SC under 19 player, obviously you've got to wait your time. If you're in matric, it might mean you might play in a B team, but it doesn't mean you're not important. It doesn't mean you're not identified from our point of view or from Alliance point of view. We're lucky and fortunate enough that we sit in a province that oozes talent. We've got a lot of talented cricketers coming through, a lot of good schools, and we're blessed with it. And sometimes we can't please everybody, and we can't keep everybody in our system, but we try and keep the best ones, the good human beings, the ones that we know will add value to our system and to our province, and hopefully play for the Lions and the Proteas in the future. So it doesn't always mean like if a kid doesn't make a 1980 team, he's completely out of the system. We've got a good academy system that looks after players. We had players come through our academy that played in an under 19 B team. For example, of Connor Esterhuizen, who didn't play in an under 19 A team, but is now probably one of the leading batters in the South African domestic circuit. He was then coached through university and then through the Colts and Academy program, and he dominated through that call section, and then he is now eventually sort of an important player in the Lions and potentially for the Proteas in the future. So sometimes selection is not always, an easy thing, and talent ID is also not an easy thing, and to keep everyone is not easy. But I think as long as you have a good structure in place and there's good communication with the players, there's a good understanding with the players, with the universities, with the clubs, with the coaches ahead, in the pipeline below and above me, all the way through to the top. I think that's important to have those good conversations with players and make them understand where they fit into the in the picture and what we see for them going forward. And then it's our duty as coaches, to provide that holistic development, and that's the important part. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's not easy. Um, but yeah, we try and make sure we do the right things for the players.
And sometimes you get players that people don't know, they don't see them. And then, boom, Kayamajola week, we see them on the team sheet. I'm like, who's this kid? Where did this kid come from? Can you please tell me? Because I know you guys keep a huge database of these youngsters when they're still coming up, when they're doing this. But the public just sees them and then they're asking, who's this? How do you keep track of those kids? Like, for example, Sipopo Tsane. You know, one day he's playing for JP. The next day I see him just after Michaelmas and he's in the Lions team. And I'm thinking, this boy, I know him from school, but he's already here.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Look, I think the one thing that we do a lot of is we do follow a lot of cricket, a lot of school cricket, and that's part of our role. And that's important. We've got to know everyone. Sometimes you don't always get to see all of them, but you hear the conversations, and you speak to school coaches, and you speak to everyone, and they all have a good as well something to say, or an opinion on the kids. I think if I take you back a couple of years, before we get to Sipo, if I take you back a couple of years, in the first year, 2021, we picked a CJ King who was there and then about. But there's just something special about the boy when you see him up close, when you see the way he goes about his business, when you watch him on the field, when you see his energy when he runs in for his second spell. He's always making something happen with the ball when he's bowling. And sometimes he might not be blowing the records away at school or club or wherever, but there's just something about the boy that you see on a cricket field, his demeanor, the way he goes about it, how in tune he is in the game. And you say, hey, listen, there's something there, and let's try and explore it and see how far this can go. And CJ, I think, was one guy probably who maybe didn't expect to get picked at that time, and he eventually played 2 years of Coke Week. He's now got a contract with the Warriors. So you always, I think, a year after that, we had a Neil Timmers, who was from Helpakar College. It's a co-ed school, not a great cricketing school, but the boy just had a little bit of X factor with him. He had a fearlessness about him. He wasn't great in his technique, but he had just a fearlessness in the way he went about his business. And when we did pick him, everyone was like, "How can you pick a guy from Helpmakar when there's all these other top schools around, players from those schools and top wicketkeepers?" And we're like, "But you know what? There's just something special about this boy, you know." And we give him that benefit of doubt, and we see, okay, how far can that take us? And I always believe something in our cricket teams, when we do pick teams, sort of 80% of your team has got to be guys who are consistent performers, right? And the guys who perform throughout the year, they're consistent, bat and ball, they do the right things. But that 20% must be left for those X Factor boys. And Neil Timmers was that type of guy. You know, a little bit of X Factor. Chart Mens, if you remember in Makanda, he was a boy, also from Help Makar. You know, strong boy, nothing amazing about him, but he's just X factor in terms of the way he plays. He's different. He's fearless, and he's got BMT, and you can see that. And when guys do that, and when you find these guys, these are the guys that provide balance in your team. These are the guys that, when we have six SR19 players around him, these are the guys that provide that sort of balance, and are guys that can maybe have a career. You never know. Anil Thomas recently just got picked up in the SA20 auction for, I think, 200,000 at Chennai. Sorry, Joburg Super Kings. You know, and it's like, wow, you know, what a journey. You know, and so we did, maybe we did, but at some point, sometimes we're going to miss boys, and some boys are going to fall through the cracks, and we need to ensure that we have these safety nets that catch these ones that we do miss. You know, with club cricket structure, the university structure that then catches these ones that we do miss, because we can't obviously keep everyone. But still, they have a way in for them when the opportunity arises. You know, so you're always going to find these, and there's always going to be people who think, you know, like on paper they'll have their team watching cricket from maybe just a few schools, without a broader idea or picture of the holistic, you know, environment. And I think that's important. And sometimes, yeah, we can't change people's opinions, and they're going to have that, and whether it's good, and we get some wrong, and we're going to get some right. So that's the nature of the game. We must accept it, and we just make sure we're doing the right thing for the right reason. That's important. I think when it comes to Sipo, you know, he went to the previous World Cup, as a left arm spinner. Unfortunately, didn't get too many games due to the balance of the team. The team was playing up at Highveld, you know, and they probably played more seam bowlers than spinners. So he was part of that setup. He's been through our system from under 12, under 13. I remember him as under 13 assistant coach at the time to Brian Patel, who was our Sun Lions coach. And you know, Sipo played along with Quena and Richard and a lot of other good cricketers that came through our system the last good few years. But he's just been a great kid. He's a kid from very humble, really, really, really humble, you know, upbringing. His dad is sort of old and handicapped in a way, and you know, they live out in a small little holding in Alex. You know, he's had support from like the Blue Label Telecom program that through Alex and those sort of things. JP High School obviously came on board and looked after him from there. But he's just been an ever unbelievable human being, and throughout his career, he's just grown and become better and better and better. And he's literally at his age, he's like a breadwinner in his home, you know. So it's an amazing story of a boy from the hub, from a township, who's given his life to make. He's given himself an opportunity to make a life through cricket. But it hasn't one bit made him sort of arrogant in a way, or entitled in a way. He's a humble boy. After the World Cup, unfortunately, he had a bit of a tough time because he felt like he could have done more, and you know, he sort of went through a bit of a lull for a year. So it was tough managing that, getting him through his studies, and you know, together with the school, trying to put some energy into that, trying to get his cricket back on track. Last year, I think Kai Majola, he played last year. He didn't have the best to his own standards and to his own admission, not the best Kai Majola week, but he put in effort and he tried. You know, and then for fast forward to a couple of weeks ago when the Lions are looking for a player for you know, to fill Russell's gap as a spin bowler because we lose Bjorn, and it's like, you know, and that speaks to how good our pipeline is, and how strong the relationship is in this pipeline. Russell will give us a call and say, guys, who's the guy next in line? You know, you know, can we trust him? And you know, he's a young boy. We're like, you know what, the boy won't let you down. giving that opportunity. But ultimately, it's your call. And Russell and the team backed him. They backed him. They put a he didn't disappoint. It was unbelievable moment for him, for the school. He goes to Michaelmas on that Monday. I picked him up after his last game. We took a drive down. He was just so excited and just so happy and energized for the next couple of days. And that just speaks to the human being he is, and it's great that it can happen to a boy like that. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of him. And it was the most amazing thing was that his first wicket was Tapang Ditole, a local Gauteng boy, and Coach Richard Seletswane bowled Sipho Potsani. It's like the greatest story ever. Yeah, it's just that's what our cricket is about, and that's what Lions are about, and our nation is about. I think it's just so satisfying to see these boys grow up in front of you and get to where they go. I think the important thing is from my side is just to allow them to grow and to fly and to face the next chapter in their lives with the next coaching staff, and we'll then look for the next talent, and that's our jobs. We have fun with them, and we can talk to them and engage with them and check in on them, but then we look for the next one. We look for the next Richard and the next Sipo, and whoever else is coming through, and that's what we want. We must just keep churning them out and keep giving Russell headaches there on top. I think that's what we want to do.
And when you guys do trials, it's never a one and done. It's always two rounds because of the amount of talent that's in the province. As you said, you try to make sure that you get everyone, but unfortunately, you cannot get everyone, which is a fact of life. But can you explain to me what you're looking for in the first round and then what you're also looking for in the second round of trials?
Yeah, so we'll generally have all our age groups will trial in a similar way. You'll have a first round of trials, which is run through the schools committee. So boys will from schools, they're obviously in different areas. So the areas will then pick their teams from the schools. They pick either two or three teams per area, depending on how big the area is and those sort of things. And then your first round is just generally basically performance based. So guys who perform will generally go into the second round of trials. You generally all your identified players or guys who are in your winter squads or those sort of boys who made previous scouting teams as part of your pipeline will generally stand out and go through to the next round. So and then you'll find new kids who you'll find along the way who performed, got some wickets, who scored some runs. You say, okay, let's have a look at them in the next round. Because, like you said, the talent pool is so big. We got to find a way to then sort of sift them out and come out to our best team. So that happens through the first round, and then generally the boys will go through a festival either wherever they're going. Some schools go to Michaelmas, some schools go to Potch, some wherever they go. Guys will do that, those sort of things, and then we get to the second round of trials, which becomes tough. It's not an easy process. There's selectors involved. There's a lot of kids who are expecting a lot of things to happen. A lot of parents with expectations, which is fair. And you're sort of coming down to crunch time, and it's never easy. It's a tough job. It's a tough week. It's tough. It's training. It's mentally, emotionally training for everyone. But you got to be clear. So a couple of things you'll take into account is number one, where are you playing? Where are the national weeks going to be played? So that makes a difference. Is it Highveld week? Is it a coastal week? What's the balance of your team? What's the makeup of your team going to look like? That's the first thing to consider. With that, obviously, with under 19s, like I mentioned, we might have some SA under 19 boys who have played for SA under 19. They generally would pick themselves, and that would then leave the rest of the spots open. Then again, it comes down to the balance of your team. Would you need more spinners? Would you need more pace bowlers? Are you looking for real fast bowlers? Are you looking for medium pace bowlers? What are we looking for? What skills are we looking for in the middle overs from our bowlers? How do we want to play, set up the power play when we bat? Do we want to be 30 for no wicket, or do we want to be 70 or 80 for two? Those sort of things, and so those conditions play a big part in terms of the personnel that we go for. And then, like I said, there's always guys who put their hand up and be counted from a X factor point of view, and then you got to take those guys into account and easier spot for them. How do we slot them in, and how do we make those things work? So when you put all those elements into play, and it's difficult because sometimes the wickets you play on don't always mirror what you're going to get in a national week. the balls that you use are very different. So you take all of those factors into consideration when you are looking at your team and the balance of your team. But yeah, guys who perform generally outstandingly well will come through. Like they say, the cream always rises to the top. So and that's generally what happens. Most of our trial process. The guys they clearly stand out, the ones that will belong in the team. And then you'll have your odd surprises here and there, when selectors feel or coach feels that listen, there's just something in this boy which I like, and let's try and explore it and see what will come of it. So yeah, there's many factors. It's not easy, but it's a tough process, it's a grueling process for everyone involved. But I think it's yeah, it has to happen, and that's just the nature of it. So
One of the things that I'm constantly thinking about is certain schools, there's always, it's a delicate relationship between the province and the school because the player spends a lot of time with the school. But then, as a province, I would assume you have certain expectations. So, how do you guys communicate with the schools so that you guys are shooting for a common goal? And so, when you have a player, let's say for example, you have a guy like JJ Basson. There are things you will see that this is a good talent. This kid is very talented. He has a bright future. But there are certain aspects of his bowling you want him to improve upon. But if you just work with him at provincial level, maybe he goes back to school and they undo that because they have a certain expectation which is different from you guys. How do you guys make sure that those things happen less and the machine is well oiled?
yeah, I think the communication between schools is vitally important. Including school coaches, directors of cricket, and masters in charge of cricket. I think that relationship is vitally important, and I think it goes all the way up to Malibongwe at SA under 19 level. So there's got to be that constant communication up and down sort of the ladder in terms of players and where we see them and from a technical point of view, from a tactical point of view, managing their workloads, managing all those sort of things. I think this relationship is vitally important. Generally, it's quite an open relationship. There's obviously some schools will have access to better facilities than others, and that does play a difference in terms of what they can do at school or can't do at school. How much time the boys do need to spend at the Wanderers, for example, or to help them in terms from a facility point of view. So all those type of things do play a major factor in it. But the communication for technical analysis, from a technical point of view, I think it's vitally important. That happens. Because sometimes the message might be different, and to have that message the same and everyone driving towards a common goal, the message got to be clear. It's got to be consistent, and it's got to make sense. And by communicating with each other, by opening those lines of communication, we can then get to that result. I know in particular with JJ and Cornet, and there's a lot of others that have come before, is Sosa's, especially the bowlers. It does become a technical thing when there's injuries involved and there's actions and try and get quicker and what you need to work on. So there's a lot of technical elements to bowling that we focus on. And that communication is important. So sharing of videos back and forth, through from Malibongwe up, down, it's those things are important. Opening those lines of communication. But I think the biggest thing is nobody's got to put a claim on a player. I think if we can have that message and everyone is clear that it's about the player's growth and it's not just about what I'm doing for him as a coach. It's about what we're doing as a collective. And then we'll develop players quicker. I might know something, I might not know something, but if I don't know it, it's my job to go and find out what more can I give this boy. And then try and implement that and then filter that information down. So that's the way I've always worked. I rely on guys like Vinny Barnes and these guys who always help me, Russell at Lions, and even chatting to Alan or Ash. We're blessed to have these guys around. Why not use them? And in that way, learning and growing as a coach myself, and also then imparting that knowledge onto the boy, and then sending that knowledge down to the school coaches or whoever it is. So these communication is vitally important.
You guys have an incredible group of youngsters. You see, last year we had a 17-year-old Jason Rose who was making it up to under 19, national under 19, SA under 19. And this year, there's another one, an Ombesa Maja. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, what is the province doing so well that ensures that we constantly have these youngsters who are punching above their weight?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I said earlier, we just a province. We're blessed. We ooze with talent, and we've got a good school structure. I think from the first point of view, we've got a really good, strong school structure, which really does help us as a union. We've got also a very competitive school structure. We've got competitive kids in it, which also adds to it. And you got to create that competition. You got to create that hunger. You got to create that fight and challenge. And that's important. But I think from our side at Lions, and particularly from my side, for me, the player care is the most important thing. And the more care we can show to our players, the more opportunities we can then give them. The access to nets and facilities, and growing them in every single way, from fielding fitness to their skills to attitudes to all those type of things. Having those regular conversations, and having, I think, more importantly, role models ahead of them who've come through the system and have been successful. You can look at it on their side and you can say, listen, look at Richard. He's come through the same school as you. He's come through a similar system. This is how hard he's worked. This is what Richard's done. This is how he's made it to the top. And I think the boys feed off that energy. And I think we're blessed to have those sort of role models to energize these boys. But when you look at these boys, and a lot of them in our system, there's just a hunger and a determination in the eyes, to perform and to train and to express themselves, and then to show off and show off their talent. It's unbelievable. I also think, obviously, with SA20 happening, and the young cricketers getting chosen into SA20 at a young age, and Luandres and the JJs and all these ones, it's like it shows that things can happen very quickly. But you got to put in time, you got to put in effort, you got to put in the work, and things will happen for you. Kwena Mapaka is flying. And one of my stories to all these boys is, you don't play for the money. You don't play to make money. You play to be the best you can be, and then the money will come your way. It's a non-negotiable. It's going to happen because you work so hard at your game. You're so talented. You stay humble. You keep your feet on the ground, and you just be hungry, just to score runs, just to dominate, just to be the best in the world. And everything will then fall into place. And yeah, I think having those role models ahead of them, I think, makes a big difference. Creating a culture of excellence, creating a culture of hunger, and coupled with their talent and a good school structure and good coaches around them at schools and good parenting, a good support structure from the office. I think we've got an incredible office support team as well, who really want to grow these young cricketers, and that all, having a good coaching staff at Lions, having this good talent pool of cricketers that we've got at Lions, it just creates that energy, and it makes every day, such a pleasure to be a part of. So yeah, I think you just got to put everything into picture, and we've got a good recipe for success.
I don't know how many times I've lost count of the number of times I come to you and say, tell me about JJ. Over the past year, I did that numerous times.
Mm.
And one of the things that stayed with me was that when he was injured, the province eh, saw to it that they were hands on with his rehabilitation. And this is not something that's unique to JJ. You do that for all your provincial stars. Can you please tell me how that helps from a duty of care point of view, and also to the player himself because he feels valued.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point that you raise, and question that you raise, and how do we do it? And like I mentioned, I think we've got a really good supportive office, led by John O'Leaflight as our CEO, through to our cricket services manager Ruben and Brian at Youth and Schools. They've developed a good relationship with our medical center, one that allows us to look after our players, on and off the cricket field. And without them, I don't know if we'll be able to manage all these stars and churn out talent the way we do consistently. Because to get these players to come through a system, you need everyone to be involved in this. You need the whole system to work and speak holistically to them. Our medical staff have been amazing. They're absolutely amazing in terms of player care and getting players fit and healthy and helping them through injury and whether it be medical scans, MRIs that need to take place. We've got an incredible doctor in Dr. Vina, led by Craig and Tim and Ziad, the physios. In terms of making sure we're getting the right diagnosis, making sure we're leaving no stone unturned, making sure that all the rehab process is fully in order and looked after and managed. And then coupled with that, again, a good relationship and communication from with the coaches and the medicals to say, okay, how do we get a player to return to play? What needs to be done? How many overs does he need to bowl here, there? At what time? And then sort of working together to try and make sure that we're doing the right things, together and all in unison in getting the players onto the field. We've had incredibly great success stories, and these things don't just happen. It takes a lot of time and effort and energy from people who are invested in it, and it's an important part of, I think, our role of a duty of care and showing that we do care for players, and we have a method that's tried and tested to keep our best players here on the field, consistently performing at the highest level, because that's ultimately what we want. We want to give them that opportunity, to showcase their skills. And yeah, we're truly blessed that we do have this facility available to our cricketers and our Lions identified players at no cost to them, which is a massive, massive, massive saving, on the part of a player. But yeah, again, it speaks to, like you said, the duty of care, duty of making sure we're running high performance, high excellence, we're driving excellence, to the best of our ability.
One of the things that most youngsters have to embrace early on if they're going to, if they have dreams to making it as a professional, is to behave like a professional. And I think it really starts with the under 19 level, because this is where they are old enough to understand a lot of stuff and also mature enough to take in the lessons on professionalism. How do you carry that out?
Yeah, I think that's a vitally important point, and I want to take you back to a young Kwena Mapaka, and I'll even go further than on 19 level. Kwena, I distinctly remember as his assistant coach to Brian at that time at under 13. My one recommendation to his parents was, get him strong enough from now. Get him healthier. See a biokinetic. We were lucky enough at that point to have a biokinetist with us, helping us. Um, but the parents took that advice and they then sort of biokinetist privately, and she obviously got him into a habit of being more professional in terms of his warm up, being more professional in terms of his rehabs from injuries if he needed or whatever it was, being more professional in his process of stretching and recovery, and along with the strength work that he did, I think played a massive role in getting Kwena to where he is now in this short space of time. When Kwena got to under 19 level, even at under 16 probably, you didn't need to tell him, Kwena, warm up or go and use a roller or roll your back or whatever it was. He would know what he needs to do. He was professional in that environment. He knew what his body needed, what recovery meant, all those sort of things. And like I said, the stakes are so high nowadays that opportunities are so glaringly obvious for young kids the quicker they can start this process of looking after themselves, managing their bodies from a young age, becoming stronger and fitter and healthier, eating well, these sort of things from a young age, they're going to, and their skill, along with their skill, which is like unbelievable, the talent that we have. If you put it together, you can imagine what type of cricketers you're developing at the age of 19. We are very particular at the 19 level on fitness. It's a big part of it. Sometimes they call me the running academy because I'm a runner myself. So I make sure that these boys do a lot of running. But again, it's not just about running. It's not just about saying it's punishment, we're going to run. No, it's about making you stronger physically, emotionally, mentally, everything, and when you can do that, cricket's a hard game. Cricket at a high performance, at a high level, at a national level, it's a really, really, really tough game. It's emotional training, it's mentally training. You need to make sure your body is ready to handle it, your mind is ready to handle it. And the only way you can train that is during practice. Your practice sessions must be intense. They must be hard gym work. It mustn't be an easy ride. It mustn't just be a convenient thing or just ticking a box. You're just appearing and you're ticking the register. And that's how we create high performance, and that's how we give our players the best opportunity to be the best and to be the best in the world. We got to make it tough for them, and they must make it tough for themselves. They must challenge themselves. They must figure it out themselves. Exactly what they need. And I think that's vitally important from my side, in terms of getting these players through. But having a player that knows his body and understands his body and knows that his body needs to be strong and fit and healthy and recovered well for the next day, sorry, those things are sometimes ingrained into a kid, and the earlier we can do that, and open their minds up to that and their parents' minds up to that, the better. It's the biggest advice I give any parent to ask me, what does my son need at the age of 13? And I'll say he must become fit and strong. So as a bowler, his legs are strong, his muscles, his hammies, his quads are strong. So he can manage the impact at the age of 17 because the intensity gets higher. The all those sort of things, and it's always easy to say yes, I'll do it, but as we know, it's harder to actually go out and do it. But it's how much you want it, and part of the game is that, and a big part of the game is that.
Do we have any X Factor players? Because there are a few who pick themselves, as you said, like the guys like Jason Rolls, who already cemented their places in the under 19 side. Those guys, they are perpetually doing well, so they pick themselves. But in this year's side, any X Factor youngsters whom, okay, I will know them because I cover school cricket,
Mm.
but are there any others that people don't? Might see them coming from maybe the left side, like a curveball type of person?
Yeah, I think like I mentioned earlier, we're always going to have that 20% that we're going to leave open for those sort of guys, and if they're there, we'll try and find them. I think they probably will be. They probably will be, and I suppose in due time we'll find out. And there might be along our pipeline from under 16s, all the way up through to under 19. And I think there always is. To answer your question, they definitely will be. I think as Gauteng, our standards, our expectation rather is always to go out and win a cricket week. We're not just there to participate, and we are the team to beat when it comes to a national week, as you know. And we got to be on top of it. We got to make sure we cover all our bases from a skill point of view, from a mental point of view, from a preparation point of view. All those sort of things. Um, our trial process is tough. It's vigorous. There's a lot of good players. There's a lot of good players that are going to miss out. But we're going to find those couple of sort of left field boys who come in, and let's see how they do in a week. Generally, what happens is these boys, they stand out. We find that over the last 5 years, they stand out. They sort of not the guys always in the forefront of things when they're playing other schools, or they're not always talked about. But they'll come good, and then let's see what they're all about. I'm sure everyone will be excited for the challenge ahead. And yeah, if we can just get through exams as quickly as we can have more time to spend growing their skills. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting couple of months.
Is there a player, there are obvious talents, that we all see. You go to the nets, you see them, be like, whoa, this kid is very good. But is there a player who shocked you the most? Maybe whether it's their development, maybe you see them at this level this year and next year they are exceptional, or you see them at the nets and you're thinking, they are okay, but then they start performing and like, wow, is there a player that's ever shocked you out of your socks? Not Quena, not Jason. Those are obvious
Yeah,
superstars.
I think in the previous years they definitely were. One was a CJ King. I think he really was one that he just said there's something about this boy. I think another one was his brother as well, which was JP. Unfortunately, JP couldn't get picked in our team. But the conversation with JP was, my man, you just need to hang in here because there's something serious about you. But he's also ended up playing cricket, domestic cricket now for the Warriors. So I think those two were really special talents. I think Neil Timmers was another one who was just completely fearless. It took no energy, and he was just like, he just does the job. When you look at him in the nets, like JJ can bowl to him, anyone can bowl at him, and he's like, you know what, I'll take you on, and if it's in my zone, I'm gonna hit you. And these guys are just like they're unbelievable, in terms of the way the mindset is, I think. And like I said, sometimes it's how they brought up and they just love. You can just see they just play with a smile on their face, and if it doesn't happen today, then well, it's fine. It's going to happen tomorrow. And that's the type of attitude they have. And sometimes we see players who get very down and want things too early and want things to happen every week, and it doesn't happen. And then you look at guys like this, like you say, in the nets and out in the field, and you're like, wow, there's just something remarkable about them. Achad Mens was that as well. But Neil Thomas, I think, definitely does stand out as one of those. Just oozes talent, great hand-eye coordination, and just effortless and fearless in the way he goes about it. So, yeah, and I'm sure there'll be more to come.
Brilliant. Wabi, thank you so much for making that time. I enjoyed myself. I learned a lot. I hope some other people will do. But I enjoyed my time with you.
No, perfect. It's great to chat and yeah, always engaging and I appreciate you always having your hand on the pulse and eye on the pulse in terms of picking out this next talent that we have coming through our system and always looking out for the best for our cricket in our province. So thanks for that.